So we're going to list properties on all the major websites, which should include websites like Zillow, Trulia, HotPads, Apartments.com, and several more, including the Solid Rock Realty website. What we can tell you is that most people who are seriously interested in rental property are going to funnel eventually to our website. Some of the sites that we don't market on that people frequently ask about is a website like Facebook, for example. They actually don't allow property management companies to list properties for rent on something like Facebook Marketplace. So that is a question that's going to be, it depends. It really depends on you as a landlord and how aggressive you want to be in your rental rate. So we don't give a specific number just because it can vary wildly depending on who the owner is and where we market it. So some key factors that really influence days on market are really going to be two big ones. First one's going to be price, which we'll come back to. Second one's going to be condition. So ways you can improve the condition of the property that's going to decrease days on market would be doing upgrades like maybe new painting, new flooring, adding amenities like a washer and dryer if the washer and dryer hookup does exist. Could even be allowing for pets to be in the property. That's definitely a way to decrease your days on market. And then the other big factor is cost, like we said. So if you price your property too high, it may just never rent. It could sit there for months and months and months. If it's too low, we're going to have a really huge volume of people very interested very quickly. And so it's our job to make sure that we're maximizing the amount of rent you're getting from the property. And we've got lots of experience in trying to price it just right to where we're not going to sit on the market for a really long time, but we're also not going to be so low that you're leaving money on the table. So we don't manage short-term rentals, but we'd be happy to recommend some short-term rental companies out there. In terms of furnished homes, we also don't manage furnished homes. What we have found is that the rental rate ends up being significantly less than if the home was vacant and empty than if it was furnished. And we find a lot of landlords get very stressed over the damage that can occur and the costs that can be incurred in replacing and repairing those furnishings throughout the lease. And so we honestly just want to help protect our landlords and let them know now that a furnished rental is really not a good idea for a long-term property management setup. Staging can help, but we honestly don't recommend it. Staging can be viewed by residents as a way to try and hide certain features of the home, possibly problems with the flooring or walls that they're trying to hide with couches or rugs. And so a lot of residents start questioning why they're staging in a property, and it's just not something you usually see in a long-term property management setup. So ultimately, no, we don't recommend it, and it's very costly, and the return on that investment just doesn't make sense. Yes, absolutely. If the property has washer and dryer hookups, I highly recommend that you add a washer and dryer to those units. I recognize there is the downside that then you're responsible for maintaining them, but I can tell you having a washer and dryer definitely decreases the days on market, so it decreases your vacancy cost, which is very expensive, can often be less than the cost of a washer and dryer in their maintenance, and increases the rental rate. So higher rental rate, lower days on market, really recommend having a washer and dryer in there. Short answer is yes, eventually. We don't want to make promises that rent is always going to go up every year. In fact, for 2024 and 2025, we have seen a very flat and if not sometimes decreasing rental rates over these 2 years. We don't want to go to a tenant and offer them a lease renewal rate that's significantly higher or higher amount than maybe other vacant units on the market. Because what can happen is the residents will start shopping around and they're going to say, well, I've been in this unit for a year or two. The carpet's getting a little dingy. The walls are a little beat up. So if I have to pay more money to stay here, why wouldn't I just move to this other unit that has fresh paint, fresh carpet, and is ready to be lived in for the same amount of cost? Now, the residents may want to stay because it's costly to move. It's a pain in the butt to move. They'll have to pay a new security deposit. They'll have to do that whole transition. So we often do try to at least make minor incremental increases when we can. But in other years, like 2018, 2019, 2020, the rental market was booming and rates were just going up very quickly. And so we do our best to make sure that your property does not become vacant, but we also want to keep your residents at a market rate. Otherwise, they have this lifestyle creep where they're used to paying a lower rent, which may not be realistic for them in the future. And so they have these false sense of security that they're always going to be able to stay at this low rent. And then one day they're going to move and have to transition into a much higher rental rate and have a decrease in their living expenses to accommodate that. So it's really good for them as well to keep their rental rate at market rate.